Welcome back to Internal Affairs and Capers, a police podcast. We're Code 6. If you guys don't know that, that's actually at scene at Santa Ana College in the CALFIA Symposium 2024. I was fortunate and honored to be part of all this. And we have
Jeff Wright.
I was going to call you the Gentle Giant, but Jeff, like I said before, you reminded me of my partner where when I first saw my partner that looked just like you, I just thought he was this gunslinger, all-out dude, and he turned out to be a teddy bear. Would that be a fair description
100%.
of Jeff Wright?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Big teddy bear.
Big teddy bear. We'll go with that during the episode. Well, look, man, thanks for showing up. Nothing against Josh. Everybody's special. I always say, we have a special guest. We're all special.
Josh is special, though.
Josh would be extra special.
Yeah, he's special.
That's fine. We can go with that.
Yeah.
I got to ask you. So here we're at CALFIA. You got involved in CALFIA. Tell me how that all went down and how
I got tricked into getting involved in this. So probably 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
I'm one of our use of force instructors at Ontario Police Department, mm-hmm. and I knew Orange County was doing a quarterly meeting with a guy named Tracy McKenzie. So I reached out, and him and I kind of talked a couple times. I went and attended their meetings. Phenomenal info was passed from Orange County agencies. The Inland Empire kind of got involved. And we were talking, and we came across Dave Demersian, who is our residential attorney. And we had a meeting one day, and he's like, "Hey, you guys got to take this bigger." He's like, "Think bigger." And so we did. And it started out as a SoCal Force Instructors Association. I think you're gonna have Brandon on here in a little bit, and he was one of the founding board members as well. Tracy said, "Hey, do you want to get involved?" And I was like, "Sure." They had a meeting that I couldn't attend. And since I wasn't at that meeting, I got voted vice president. So I kind of got tricked into this whole board, and I've been with it ever since. And this thing has grown more than I could ever imagine. This past Tuesday or Wednesday, so our first day, mm-hmm. we were. I was talking with Brandon and Tracy. We had a badass panel in the morning, mm-hmm. and then to see guys actually on the mats rolling. Hands-on training in the afternoon was just phenomenal. It's something that our profession has been lacking, mm-hmm. and it's great to see all these agencies from Northern California, Central Cal, and down in SoCal. And there's some agencies from like San Diego County that are up here working together, training, networking. Hey, what's working for you? What's not working for you? And it's amazing.
Let me ask you this. Would you agree with me that a police department in the state of California will never send you to enough training?
100%. And I think,
I use the word never, sorry to interrupt with Josh, but they will never send you enough training.
No, and no matter what, because they need a body in a car, and they need the money to pay for something else. And, our agency is phenomenal. They do a great job of sending people to trainings, and it's always like, hey, what's mandatory? Well, what is the mandatory training we have to get somebody to? And then what's the want or a desire? And we can't train our people enough. You look at all these other professions, and they have these high standards to get their certificates and to maintain their certificates. And then you look at law enforcement, and we kind of get passed over. And it's like, oh, well, you learned that 2 years ago. You should know how to do it. Don't worry about it. And that doesn't fly anymore.
No, I 100% agree with it, which leads me to my next question. Do you feel that 835 APC is the Bible of police work or police officers?
It is. And sadly, a couple years ago, better than anybody, it changed. They threw us I don't know if I can say this, a shit sandwich.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
They took things away from us. They put some law in place that there were some good things. They codified Tennessee Gardner and Graham Connor, and they did some good stuff for us. But then they threw in some statistics, mental health, officers involved in lethal encounters. That are they going to go back and change that? I mean, we're 4 years later, and they still haven't. And those numbers have changed, whether they've gone up or down, but they haven't done anything with them. And so at the time, I know I'm guilty of this. I think some of the board members were like, "Hey, it's going to be okay. Nothing's going to change." I remember that was a big push initially, even from Post. They put out that video And it's like, hey, everything's going to be fine. And we didn't know what we didn't know. And literally 18 months later, everything's upside down. So these officers don't stay up to date with it.
Yeah.
And even worse than that, our district attorneys who are filing these cases don't understand 835A.
Yeah.
And we've done some training with our district attorneys in San Bernardino County, and it was eye-opening for us because we think they're the experts in the law.
Yeah.
They don't live in this world every day like we do. And it was a little concerning, but it was good for our people to see that.
No, totally. How many years you have on this
Next
profession?
week will be 22 years for me.
Okay, so there you go. So 22 years ago, 25 years ago, can you agree with me that when you were in the academy, they said, hey, 835A is effect and arrest and overcome resistance and prevent an escape, and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, 22 years ago, it was like, hey, there's some laws that say you can go and tackle that person, take them to the ground, arrest them,
Yeah.
and drag them to jail. And that was it.
Yeah, and then I suppose, I don't know, 15, 10 years ago, they added defense of others and defense of property.
Right.
And then, of course, you're like, okay, I remember back in my days, idle, right?
Right.
Immediate defense of life, you know, and if it's an idle situation, or we had an acronym called BOX. You know what? I don't know why I said it because I kind of remember, but I don't. Background. Thank you. Age, last resort. No.
Knowledge and then last resort.
Knowledge and last resort. There you go. See,
Obviously didn't stick.
you know what? And that had to do, which interestingly enough, that had to do with a fleeing felon. You know, and so you had to know your background, the age, and all this good stuff that you, for whatever reason, you had to like think about this while the person is actually fleeing from a felony. So, AB392, I do know when I asked Josh, it's a tall order. Let me ask you this. You guys started about, 5 years ago in CALFIA?
Yeah.
Where do you think it is now, and what do you forecast to see in the future for CALFIA as we move forward?
It's in a good place. I mean, having seen the first symposium, which was one day in a hotel, and we were kind of all over the place with what we did. And next year, the Napa guys, Josh and Kenny and them, and we got Bill kind of sucked into it as well. And having that fashion from up there, it really is awesome. Having an understanding of what the need is up north and what the need is down here. I know it's, hey, we're cops and we're supposed to, cop work is cop work is cop work, but sometimes it's different. Your district attorneys up north are a lot
Different.
That's the best way to put it. Very different compared to what we have down here, except for LA County. However, that being said, to answer your question, it's just evolved, and every year it's gotten bigger. And I'm not going to say better. Sometimes we do things where we're like, hey, as an agency or as an organization, we do stuff and we're like, well, we fell short of that. You know, we didn't hit that one out of the park, but we'll fix it and we'll make it better. The fact that we have now it's a 3-day symposium, 10 hours of post credit. I think our next step would be to make all 3 days, 24 hours of post credit. That's what the next vision or next step would be. But I'll tell you, Josh, Kenny, Bill, those guys from up there have been they've been a godsend to help, but we need still people to help. We're doing the heavy lifting with about 6 of us, 7 of us, and they say it takes a village to raise a kid. It's the same thing with this. So, going back to your 835 point just a question ago, somebody yesterday on our panel, and I don't remember, it was one of the attorneys. I don't remember who, they brought up that the mat work is actually the easy part of our job now. And there is a lot of truth in that. Getting people to understand, hey, basic takedown, handcuffing, put this person in jail, that is really the easy part now. It's the laws and all the other stuff that goes with it that our 22-year-old kid officer that we're putting on the street who has to be basically RoboCop now is required to do way more than you and I ever needed. Hey, socialist, a therapist, an unhoused individual coordinator. Hey, know the law, know what traffic violations you can and can't. I mean, it's just, we're asking so much for our young people that we don't provide them all the training to keep them updated. We're setting them up for failure.
You know what, Jeff, you took the thoughts as you're telling me all this, how the expectation of being a police officer today in the state of California far exceeds, what you're trying to do. We're here to protect and serve. You got AB392, which you and I can agree. If we were to walk in a roll call in my beloved LAPD, I already said this, and don't get mad. But 70. I can go to 77th Division, the mothership, and walk into Day Watch right now, and on the whiteboard put AB392 and ask the first row, which is your young officers, then your 5 to 10 year officers, and then the senior guys, old school guys. The consensus will probably that they really don't have a grasp of what AB392 did to the Bible.
And the thing is, with 392, they talk about it, but I would take it a step further and say, who cares about that? What's the government code? Because now it's legal, it's on the books, and you're going to get in trouble if you go out right now and violate it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's switch gears. I'm the IA guy. And by the way, hey man, I'm here for you. I can be part of one of the village people to help you raise this village. I'm more than glad to help out and make sure that we move forward with CALFIA. You saw this internal affairs a police podcast. I gotta ask you, man, what was like your first thought? Like you saw this, you're like, hi, hey, what's going on? What do you think?
So if you remember, we talked a couple months ago, and you actually sent me the link to this.
Okay.
And when I clicked on it, I was like, what the hell? First of all, I was like, what is Josh getting us into as an association? Who I've been talking to for the last 30 minutes on the phone, and now what am I about to listen? Because it's like admin leave, right? Hey,
yeah.
Officer such as put on admin leave, and if there's immediate thoughts, oh, they fucked up.
Yeah.
They're getting fired. Well, admin leave doesn't have to be a bad thing, we've learned, right?
Correct.
You hear internal affairs, and you're like, oh, someone did something they weren't supposed to do. And so I thought it was a trick. I was like, oh, this is a phishing scam. I'm going to click on this link, and it is going to open up, and my phone's going to be taken over. My internal affairs going to be like, what are you trying to get on us? But it was good stuff. It was not what I was expecting it to be, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, it makes a lot of sense. Would you agree that it's a bit taboo, right? Not many people like talking about stuff like this.
100%. It was like yesterday when we had on the Professor Jody Armour, and he gave this dissertation of history of where he came from. You're like, I'm not going to see eye to eye with this guy. And surprisingly, a couple of his comments, I was like, I understand where he's coming from. So when you hear internal affairs, it has this immediate negative connotation tone to it that you're like, I'm going to click off of this and go somewhere else.
Yeah, and you know what? Before we move on to something else, I just got to ask you: what do you think that stigma, negative that is, exists with internal affairs? I mean, you come on 22 years ago, 25 years ago. I mean, I can probably bring a 30 or even a 40-year veteran, and they would say that, it's we're like some evil people, or don't talk to them. What do you think that is?
I think it's just the nature of what they do and what people think they do. I was fortunate. My old man did 32 years on the job with Pomona PD. He started in '78. He had a very interesting time frame.
Oh, I'd love to have him
and
on the show.
Him and I actually worked together for about 7 years when I was at Pomona before I went to Ontario. And it was a blast. As I've gotten older in my career, it's been some of the best times. I look back and I cherish those. But I say that because he worked internal affairs prior to me getting there, and we would talk about stuff, and I'm like, you're investigating your own people, man. Like, you have no friends, and so that's that tone about it that keeps being kind of carried on. That, hey, you're out, and I'll tell you, I can't speak for every agency. I know LAPD has some interesting things going on there.
I'm the first critic. I worked IA for long enough to tell you that I'd be the first ones to say that we do it to ourselves.
Right. And so I know our investigators, they're great dudes. They have a great ton of knowledge, and they truly look at it as just being fact finders. Hey, I'm here to just be a fact finder. Yeah. They're not proactive. They're not trying to go out and set people up. But if something comes across through this, they got to do what they got to do. Yeah. And I can understand that, because it goes back to yesterday we talked about, hey, if we have bad cops in this job, we need to bounce them out, because they ruin it for all the good cops out here.
No, totally, 100%, man, and I appreciate all that. Hey, right before we started recording, you're like, capers. You're like, what's this? I decided to do a channel, a different one that is, so that people can come in and tell me about this crazy bitchin' wild caper. I got to ask you, but maybe you did hear the word caper because your father was on the job.
Yeah.
But absent your father, did you even know what caper was?
I had no idea. I was like, where? I was like, this guy is all over the map. I mean, capers, my old man would talk about it, obviously.
Hey, let me tell you about this caper.
Yeah, like that's an old school, like you'd hear it in stories about like back east, and New York cops say that kind of stuff. We don't really talk about that so much out here. And that's why I did ask you, like, well, where are you going with this capers thing?
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
Yeah, I really honestly feel that, tell me about this pursuit or when you were on probation. We had one story where there was two probationers, old school guy, this is like in the mid 90s, where they were actually, they were told to go on a food run by their sergeant. And so they go to Jack in the Box and the food run, and the cashier, right as they're getting their food, a help call comes out. So what they do is they throw the food right back at the cashier, and they take off, and the chase is on. They go through like 3 different cities, wrong side of the freeway the whole time. And of course, you got to come back and tell the Sarge,
I didn't get your food.
I didn't get your food, man. So,
And the way they say the rules, a good cop never gets wet and never goes hungry. So they definitely violated one of those rules, right?
yep. Thank you so much, Jeff, aka Big Teddy Bear, for having on. And listen, we're getting ready to wrap it up. In conclusion, any advice you have for anyone who's trying to become a police officer and wants to come on and be a cop, man? What kind of advice you have?
It's a great profession. You know, you're never going to be a millionaire, but if you truly, I know it's so cliche, you want to help people, make a difference. It's a great job. It'll take care of your family and good retirement system. It's worth it.
It's worth it. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And of course, like always, please be safe out there and don't forget to go Code 6. Thank you.